This is chapter 12, pages 336 to 373. The topic is language, tone, and style. The elements that conjure a story's particular flavor and voice as achieved by means of the words the author chooses and the rhythm with which he or she puts the words together. Style is meaning the characteristic way in which she or any writer uses language and story. Tone is the author's attitude towards his or her characters or subject matter. One of the supporting details is creating style and tone. The distinctive style combined with the writer's tone molds the reader's impressions. Tone establishes how the narrator regards the story and the people in it, for example, with contempt, longing, passionate curiosity, sympathy, or ambivalence. The writer's tone influences how the reader relates and responds to the characters and the course of events. The next supporting detail is style and diction. Diction, whether formal or informal, is important in writing because of what it reveals about the character. And the next detail is tone and irony. Irony, a difference between what occurs and what you expect to occur, or between what is said and what is meant, often involves some sort of reversal in circumstances or fate. An example of the irony: I chose the story The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. Almost every aspect of The Yellow Wallpaper is ironic in some way. The narrator uses verbal irony, especially in reference to her husband. And here's an example. John laughs at me, of course, but one expects that in marriage. Under tone and irony, they had a definition of verbal irony, a person saying one thing and meaning another, and also sarcasm, when someone speaks in a mean-spirited, critical, or malicious way. Then they have dramatic irony, a situation in which an author or narrator lets the reader know more about a situation than a character does. And then it's chapter 13. The topic is theme. The central or underlining meanings of a literary work. One of the details is identifying themes. Reading closely enough to gather the threads of theme reveals the greatest potential of a story. Reading with an eye for theme in fiction can teach a great deal about how to get at the essence of other kinds of texts that are required reading in college, and it helps create the skill of linkage and expressiveness in writing for college. Another detail in the chapter was recognizing multiple themes. There are many different themes for stories: love and loss, power and powerlessness, freedom and responsibility, death and faith, and love and family. And then here's an example. I chose the story Interpreter of Melodies by Jhumpa Lahiri. One of the themes was communication breakdown. Mr. Kapasi, he lost his ability to communicate with his wife, and he also lost his ability to communicate in the languages he had learned, so he only speaks English. The second theme was the danger of romanticism. The main conflict of the story is the two people who romanticize each other in different ways, Mr. Kapasi and Mrs. Das. and it's chapter 14. The topic is symbol. In literary sense, symbol is any object, image, character, or action that suggests meaning beyond the everyday literal level. And one of the details is symbols in everyday life and literature. Symbolism takes us deep into the tangled web of words and characters, incidents and objects in a story. And then it has, underneath that section, it was talking about symbolic act, a gesture or action beyond the everyday practical definition. The next detail was symbol and allegory. An allegory is a story in which major elements such as character and setting represent universal truths or moral lessons in a one-to-one correspondence. Next supporting detail was recognizing and appreciating symbols. I have an example, the story A Worn Path by Eudora Welty. Phoenix Jackson's name, actions, and traits add up to more than just an old woman. A phoenix is a mythological bird that burns and rises from its own ashes to live again. So Phoenix Jackson's name is a symbol of this woman's ability to rise above life's difficulties. Once you recognize the symbols, you appreciate them because they add to and deepen the sense we have for the story. That's it.